Hey, what's up guys? Caylen with Modern Day Sniper, and I want to take a couple of minutes to do a quick video with you guys to illustrate how terrain features can influence wind flows across your bullet's flight path. And we're going to do that by dropping some smoke grenades downrange. We've got a target at 400 yards, and we're going to start this off at a very, very basic level. We're just going to say, okay, 400 yards away, I have a Calypso wind meter here, and this is an ultrasonic wind meter, and it's connected to an app on my phone. My goal is to analyze the conditions, both at my position and whatever indicators I have down at the target, and make my best guess as to what the wind is doing to make the most accurate wind call, because we obviously want first round hits on our targets. So to demonstrate this, we're gonna deploy a smoke grenade down at the target, and I'm gonna talk you guys through what the conditions are doing here at the shooting position, as well as what the conditions are doing at the target. Because what we have in this situation right here is, I'm on kind of an open knob right here along the grass. And there is nothing that is influencing the wind from the river that is several miles away below me all the way up to my position here. There's really nothing in between that and me. There's no terrain features. However, at my target, there is a line of timber, and there's another terrain feature, a physical terrain feature, which is the earth. And it's a little finger that's coming out here. It's kind of blocking the target from the right to left flow of wind that we're getting here at the shooting position. Many people are asking all the time, what matters more? The wind at my position, which is the shooting position, the wind at mid-range, or the wind at the target? And there's obviously a lot of points to be argued here, and a lot of people have their own opinions about it. However, the mathematics don't lie. If I have a 10-mile-an-hour full value wind here at my shooting position, and it doesn't really matter if there's a terrain difference or an obstacle blocking the wind between me and the shooting position. If I have a 10-mile-an-hour wind, as soon as the bullet uncorks from the muzzle, it's going to get influenced by that 10-mile-an-hour wind, and the deflection is going to begin to occur immediately. And that deflection is not going to stop. As the bullet is deflected at the muzzle, it's going to increase as an angular unit of measure, same thing as a milliradian or a minute of angle, right? The angle remains the same, but the distance between the two rays expands proportionally to the distance from the theta, or the beginning of the angle. So if the bullet is deflected by a 10-mile-an-hour wind at this shooting position, that is the wind that I must compensate for in order to correctly account for the wind deflection that's going to happen at the target 400 yards away, regardless if the target is sheltered by terrain or trees or something to that effect, because the bullet's already been deflected at my position. All right guys, so we have our individual downrange, and he's getting ready to pop this smoke grenade. You're going to be looking for blue smoke, and while that smoke is moving, I'm going to be giving you guys an update of what the wind's doing at my position. And we also have a Kestrel at the target, so that way you guys can get a representation of what the average, minimum, and maximum wind speeds are at the target. So we got our smoke going, and right now at my position, the wind is blowing from 12:30, 1 o'clock at about 2.2 miles an hour. If we look down there at the smoke, what we're seeing is a left to right wind pattern that's happening right now. But at my position, it's not doing that. My position, it's coming from 1:30 at this point, and about 2.5 miles an hour. The wind is very, very switchy. And you guys can see that wind down there. It's starting to now push the smoke from right to left, but the majority of that smoke is drifting down the range from left to right. And now the wind is picked up to 9 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour, 9.6, and it's coming at me at about 12:15, or about, let's see, 7 degrees, 7 to 10 degrees. All right, and we can watch that smoke. It's really not doing too much at the target, and now the wind is shifted to 1 o'clock, and I can start to see the right to left flow occurring at the target now. Now we can really see the right to left, and as the smoke dissipates, you can see that just because the wind is doing something at our position does not mean it's doing the exact same thing down there. But as we look at this terrain like we talked about before we popped the smoke, it's a big opening. So the wind is going to be more intense at my position because there's nothing influencing it or stopping it or slowing it down before it gets to me. However, at the target, it is very sheltered because of those trees. And so for these particular conditions, we want to make sure that we're reading the wind at our position, and that's what we're going to make our wind call off of. All right, guys, so I've got the Kestrel back. The minimum was 1.1 miles an hour, average of 2.6, and a maximum of 4.6. What Kyler's reporting is that when he was down at the target popping the smoke, that the wind was still coming from right to left from the shooter's perspective at those averages. Now, those averages were significantly different than what we got from the Calypso. So that's just an indication that because that target is sheltered, the last third of the bullet's flight, we're going to want to read wind at this position, which is us, because the bullet is going to experience deflection right here. We just did our smoke demonstration. We've got a target down here at 790 yards, which for me requires an elevation of 5.6 mils. So we're going to put 5.6 on the gun, and the wind has been on and off. It's been very, very switchy. That's just the nature of the beast, right? So we're going to make a wind call based upon what I feel at my position right here, and then what I see downrange when it comes to some leaves in the trees that are kind of fluttering around. I'm going to use whatever I can to give me an indication of what the wind's doing. So you guys are going to get a chance to see it through the trigger cam as well as the spotting scope cam back there. We're going to see what my wind call does. Okay, there's my target. I feel very, very little going on right now. Very little indeed. So let's zoom in a little bit here. I'm going to do my best to get you guys as much of a view as I possibly can. Based upon what I'm seeing right now, I'm not really seeing much vegetation move down there. I'm not seeing much vegetation move over here on the point. I'm feeling a little bit of wind flow straight on. So let's just see what a straight up wind call does. Impact. Pretty much dead center. Let's do one more. Dead center. All right, so let's get the reticle out of the way so you guys can watch the bullet splash through the trigger cam. Okay, one more. Okay. Regardless if there's wind or not, we still have to evaluate the conditions. There could be wind that's coming on and turning off like there is today, or it could be in a constant situation where the wind is flowing and it's not going to stop for the duration of your shooting session. Regardless, we still have to analyze the conditions in the same way, so that way we're not missing a critical part of a wind reading process that's going to end up sending us on a wild goose chase through misses. And then we start second guessing ourselves and saying, well, there's not really wind out there. I've seen a lot of guys that will go to the range, miss targets, and convince themselves that there's no wind. And then it sends them down a wild goose chase of something going on with their gear, something going on with their equipment. My zero's not correct. When in fact, there's actually a considerable amount of wind downrange, but you're just not educated enough to understand where to look for it and what the indicators are to look for. So hope you guys got something out of this. Let's go to another station and make some more wind calls. Okay guys, scenario number 2. This particular range environment or situation, we are shooting down a long opening, which the end of it's about 850 yards. So the current wind conditions are coming at me head on, which are largely considered to be the most challenging conditions to shoot in, simply because when the wind starts to fishtail, the wind very rarely stays in one direction or one azimuth, either coming away from you or towards you. It's always going to be moving around laterally, left to right. And we refer to that as a fishtail. So in this particular scenario, We have a long linear avenue, if you want to call it that, like a lane that we're shooting down. There's high terrain on either side of the lane that we're shooting on, and that is occupied by trees. And there's a large terrain behind the range, but the wind is coming over the top of that large terrain, and it's kind of filtering and dumping into this little valley and coming up towards us. And so this is a challenging scenario because with the targets that are on this range, they're sheltered, and some of them being where they're located, if I'm measuring what the wind's doing at my location and I have no prior knowledge of what the wind is doing down this linear terrain feature, I might be incorrectly reading the wind or making a wind call based upon wind at my position when there is not much going on after my position. And I know we just talked about the last scenario being, hey, if the bullet comes out of the muzzle, the most important wind is right at the muzzle. That always is generally going to hold true, but you can get yourself into a situation where if you overread the wind at your position, you're going to miss the target at long range depending on what's going on between you and the target. And that's what we're going to analyze here. We're going to do another smoke grenade demonstration for you so that way you guys can see what's going on down in the sheltered area where the targets live. All right, so we got some smoke down there, and we can see that our smoke is indicating a wind coming fairly straight down the pipe. So look at, as the smoke rises and swirls, it's gently being carried down that valley towards us, right? And so the Calypso right now is showing 4 miles an hour of raw wind coming at us from 11 o'clock, now about 11:30. I'm sorry, 10:30, now 10 o'clock, still 4 miles an hour. And we can see that that is actually happening downrange. And as that smoke is shifting, we can see it. Largely, the wind is bringing the smoke to us, and right now, the wind's dropped down to 2.5 miles an hour from 10 o'clock. It's really just kind of light and variable. So it's really, this is a really great indication to show that there are differences in what's going on in protected terrain features or protected lanes that you're shooting into versus what's going on at your position right here. And now we see the wind starting to drift from left to right. See, that's not what's going on right here. What's going on right here is we have a 5 mile an hour, 4 mile an hour wind coming at us from 1 o'clock now. And you can see downrange, the smoke's just about to be dissipated, but it is definitely blowing left to right. What that is an indication to us is that we have a swirling wind condition here as a result of the wind. The predominant wind direction is coming straight at us over the top of this big terrain feature that's in front of us. And so what that is doing is it's causing the majority of the wind to spill over the top of those trees and keep on trucking. And as it spills over the top of those trees, that's what we're feeling right here, predominantly. But there's some wind that's going to be kind of siphoned off from that wind flow coming over the trees and sucked into that valley, which is then going to show us the influence of what the smoke is doing, right? It's basically showing us that the bottom of that valley floor is largely protected. Now, where this gets tricky is for deeper distance shots where the maximum ordinate of my bullet is going to be higher than where the ground is. And so this particular shooting scenario, the max ord of my bullet to that 900-yard target back there, 850-yard target, it's going to be several feet above, 10 to 12 feet above the ground. And as you guys could see from the smoke demonstration, that the higher the smoke got off the ground, the more the smoke moved, because there's less surface friction higher up off the ground, and the wind therefore is going to move a little faster. So you have to figure out whether or not you need to plus up your wind calls by a specific percentage, or roundabout percentage rather, to help you in saying, hey, I know that that wind is moving faster up off the ground, but the trick to knowing that is how much faster is it moving? And the only way that you're going to get that is through experience, coming to different places and shooting in different locations with those conditions and recording your data, studying it, and coming up with what is really, I mean, that's the essence of it, is data on previous engagements. So dope is not just elevation, dope is windage as well.